Hey guys, it's Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about read alouds. Ways that I go about choosing what we read, and then also what some of our read alouds are going to be for the upcoming school year. So a very common question that I get around here is, how do I choose what read alouds we read, and also curiosity and what we are reading? So as I said, I'm going to be going over both of those things. The first part, the how I choose what we're reading, actually has a lot of components to it, and I don't use just one particular way to determine that. I like to choose a few read alouds that are for fun, things that I think that we might enjoy for the upcoming year, and I really like to try to spread them out through the year because the rest of our read alouds typically are historical fiction, simply because we do a literature-based history approach to our homeschool, and some of the read alouds actually are biographical, so they're not all fictional as well. So the first thing I like to do is pick a few that are just for fun. Now, when I say I like to spread them out throughout the year, there is kind of a specific way I like to do that as well. So if there is a read aloud that maybe happens at a specific time of year or during a certain holiday or something like that, and the read aloud is kind of themed around that, I do really love to take those type of read alouds and plug them in throughout the year based on that. So we have a couple this year that I'm gonna do that with, and I'll share those when it's time to share what we're actually reading. So when I'm choosing read alouds for fun, or even some that are, you know, part of our history or whatever, I really like to sometimes put some in that are from a series. And the purpose for that is because I like to read the first one in the series as a family to maybe pique interest, so that one of my children might find a series that they are interested in reading and continuing for themselves. So that's something else that I really like to do as well. Now, as I mentioned, we do a literature-based history approach, and our history, we use Biblioplan, and I've talked about it a lot around here. So if you're interested in hearing more, I will link some of those videos in the description, as well as a whole playlist of things having to do with read alouds, because I've talked about them a lot here as well. So when it comes to our history, what's great about Biblioplan is that there is no set reading list, but there is extensive lists in the family guide that line up with what you are learning throughout the course for you to choose read alouds from. And I love that. I love that there is lists upon lists of that some are suggested by age. There's a list of family read aloud suggestions, as well as some by those specific ages. And so I use those lists as kind of a guide to go through and choose things as independent reads for my kids, as well as family read alouds. So another thing that I really like to do in regards to this is also check out some of the reading lists for other literature-based histories. One of those is Sunlight. I love to check out the reading list over there. I also really like the reading list on Read Aloud Revival. Another great resource, because I do like to make sure that we have some diverse reads in our read aloud selections. And one of the resources that I really like for that is Heritage Mom Blog, which I will also link down below. And so I have gotten some good suggestions over there. I like that she will, you know, put any kind of disclaimers if there's maybe content that might be difficult for a younger child or whatever. And so she has some lists that are listed by like the historical timeline aspect of things to figure out, you know, oh, I want a book that takes place in the 1600s, you know, and then finding a list that is more that era of history with some different suggestions of books in that way as well. And so that's another resource that we really like for choosing some read alouds as well. As far as choosing read alouds for fun, I know I mentioned, you know, usually those are books that are kind of on my radar. Well, how do they get on my radar? They are either books that I enjoyed when I was younger, books that I've just heard about, like on social media or whatever, that maybe other homeschool families are enjoying. But I do also like to kind of vet books out, especially newer reads, just because the quality of literature is not what it used to be. There is some really good modern literature that is being released, and so to find that, I like to kind of vet it first through other, you know, word of mouth, other friends, you know, on social media or whatever. And sometimes if I'm not sure about a certain book or I can't find a lot about it, then I will pre-read it or listen to it as an audiobook to see if it's one that I want to share with my children. So that's a few things about how I pick my read alouds. But let's head out and I'm gonna go show you my read aloud shelf for the upcoming year. It might surprise you a little bit because I don't have them all picked out, and I'll show you why. Okay, so we are actually in our hall closet, and in here is this shelf of like educational type board games and activities for my kids when we are doing like read aloud time or morning basket or whatever. And then down here, I have all of these books. Now, this is not everything that we will read. Some of it is more than what we will read. Some of it is not even on the shelf of what we will read. And I'm gonna do an explanation of that. So one of the things that I like to do is I go through all of the bookshelves that we have in the house, which is quite a bit. My husband and my kids give me a hard time about it all the time, about how many books. Another book? You ordered more books? Anyway, so in here I have taken any of the books that I either know for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, we're going to read for the upcoming year, or that have to do with the time period of history that we're going to be studying. Now, if it is a book that we have already read from that time period, I will typically go ahead and leave it on the other bookshelves in the house. So if it is something that we have already read in the past, but maybe some of my younger kids or other kids have not read it, then I will go ahead and pull it out. So on here, this is potential read alouds for the year. Some of our read alouds are for sure chosen for the year, but then I leave the door open to find things to plug in at our leisure, whatever piques our interest or whatever. So I'm going to share the ones we have for sure chosen for the upcoming year, but these, like I said, are a lot of the ones, especially these, we will probably read pretty much all of those this upcoming year. And then most of these are books that I have pulled out as independent reads for my kids. And if you don't know, I have 6 kids. All of them are homeschool age this year, but 4 of them are reading age. So this is for those older 4. And then these are for the whole family or for my younger 2. So this is kind of how I'm doing it this year. So another thing that I really like to utilize is Scribd. And that's not focusing, and I apologize, but I really, really like Scribd. You pay a monthly fee and have pretty much unlimited audiobooks, a lot more than what is available through my library loan system. And so I've actually made a list on here of potential read alouds for next year, or things that I know that we're going to read that just might be better, or maybe I don't have a copy of it and we just want to do it as an audiobook, like when we're driving to different lessons or sports or whatever. So we spend time in the car, and that's a great way to get a read aloud in. Another reason why I like to utilize read alouds is if you have a book that maybe is from a different culture that has names that you're not sure about how to pronounce them, it's a great way to make sure that they are pronounced correctly. We have done that quite a lot. That's just an example of how you can utilize audiobooks as part of your read alouds. So this is what our read alouds are going to be for the upcoming school year for sure. Some of them I might use as independent reads, but you guys are just gonna have to stick around my channel because typically each year I try to share each month what is in our quote morning basket, meaning what our read alouds or independent reads are for the month. And every year I try really hard to stay on track for sharing that, and every year I don't hit every single month. But that is always a goal of mine, so make sure that you're subscribed because I will try to share what we're reading each month, just, you know, because I know sometimes that can be really helpful. Now, one thing I did want to mention is that this year for our morning basket, we are actually using Morning Time from Brighter Day Press. However, disclaimer here, we are not reading every single read aloud that she suggests in here because some of them we have read once already, some of them even twice, okay? And so to fit the ones in really well that we want to do from history this year, I went ahead and kind of swapped some of them out. But that is another way that I chose my read alouds this year. So with that said, I wrote down on here and stuck it inside of what we're going to be reading and which ones we're swapping out and everything throughout the year. And so one of the ones that we're going to read from Morning Time is a Cricket in Times Square. So we have never read that one. I actually never have. I've always wanted to. I have it somewhere, but I'm not sure where it is. And we may actually end up listening to that one as an audiobook. So that is one of them. The next one is The Heroes Then and Now, I think is the one that does it. Either that, I need to look back at it, but it is the book on George Mueller. I'll maybe pop up a picture when I go back to edit this. And then now another one is we are going to be reading through Paddington, which I'm excited about because not all of my kids have read through those, and my younger kids definitely haven't. Another one that we're going to be reading is A Question of Yams, which I have actually had this book for quite some time and we have never read through it, and it is included in the Morning Time that we're doing for the year. So this is going to be one of our read alouds for sure. The next one is The Railway Children. I also have that one, but there's also an audiobook version, so I'm not sure yet if we are going to use the actual read or the audio version of that. And so that is, oh no, there's one more little page here. I didn't write anything on it. Anyway, so that is what I have from Morning Time that we're going to be doing. And now I want to get into our for fun reads, and I'll kind of do some explanations here. I showed you my shelf that has all the books for the time period of history that we're studying, which is early modern history. But we are going to focus some on American history with that, even though we're going to be studying history throughout the world in that time. But I'm going to go over our for fun reads. Now, I told you I like to try to match up seasons or holidays, and one of the books that I have been wanting to read for a while is actually The Vanderbeekers, and again, it's from a series. So my hope is that when we read this one or listen to it, we might do both. Sometimes we do a mixture of the two, like read some here at home, but in the car, listen on script. And so my hope is that this will pique interest of maybe one or two or more of my kiddos to finish reading the series. And that one I have put in place for around Christmas time. So December is the goal to read this one. The next one that I have that is kind of themed around a holiday or time of year is The Great Turkey Walk. This one is one that I have had for a while. I purchased it from Thrift Books, I think a couple of years ago, and we have just never read it, but it sounds so much fun and more of a themed read, and so that is one that is in our definite list. The next one is A Wolf Called Wonder. Now this is one I'm not sure we're going to do it as a family read aloud. I originally got this with the purpose being that my 6th grader would do this as an independent read, and so I may end up going that route. I have not decided yet, but I just put it in our read alouds as a just in case. And the next one is one that we have never read. No, we have read. Sorry, we have read this one. I just saw the title in there. I actually read this with my oldest son when he was in first grade. I don't even know if he would remember it. This and McBroom's Farm, I can't remember the whole, McBroom's Wonderful 1 Acre Farm. We read both of those when he was in first grade. I don't even know if he remembers them, but none of my other children have read or heard them. And so those are two. This one, The Children of Noisy Village, and McBroom's Wonderful 1 Acre Farm are both ones that I want to do as for fun reads, and they're pretty quick. They're pretty small. And so now I'm going to get into our historical reads. Again, these are ones that I know without a shadow of a doubt we are going to be doing this year, and then we might plug some of the other ones in, or I might assign them out. So this one, the Stowaway, Captain James Cook sailed from England, and so this is kind of the story of a stowaway who was on board that voyage, and I thought this one sounded fun, so I picked that one. Another one is Huguenot Garden. This is one that was actually pretty hard to find, and it is about the story. Its aim is to portray the ideas and historical details that were common to Huguenot life in France in 1685. And so this is one I was like, that's not something I know really that much about, and it might be really good to get a better understanding of it for my kids when we study it in history by reading a read aloud. So that's how I pick them. The next one is Squanto, Friend of Pilgrims, and that's a quick one as well. The next one, I'm not sure if I'm going to have this as an independent read for my oldest and my second oldest to do together, my 8th and 6th grader. I haven't decided yet. I love this book. I read it for myself for the first time this past year, and I was like, why did I never read this growing up? I remember my sister read it and liked it, and so as an adult, I read it. So I'm not sure yet if we're going to do this all as a family. It has potential for some amazing discussions, and so I'm just not sure yet. I think we'll see like where it fits in the timeline of the year as we're going throughout the school year on whether or not we do it as a family read aloud or independent. But this is definitely going to be read. I'm just not sure if it's going to be as a family read aloud. This one is for sure going to be a family read aloud. I love the Daughters of Faith series. We read one called Courage to Run about Harriet Tubman a couple of years ago, and it was fantastic. And so this one is about Phyllis Wheatley, and so I for sure want to read this one this year. The next one is called Guns for General Washington, a story of the American Revolution. It's supposed to be like fast-paced and exciting, and it's more of a quicker read, and so I thought this would be a good one as well as a family. This is another one I'm not sure if we're going to do all together or not. I actually might pre-read this to see if it would be good for a family read aloud, or if I should just assign it out to my oldest son for his independent reads, but it is going to get read this year. That I know for sure. And so Amos Fortune, Free Man, is in our list here. And then this is one that I do for sure want to do. It is Walk the World's Rim. So I chose this one because it takes place during the times of like conquistadors and exploration, and I really wanted that perspective for my kids. Okay, so that is our for sure read alouds for the year, along with how I choose them. I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you guys on future videos. Thanks so much, guys, and have a blessed day.